Hello everyone, I'm Jolie Heriveaux. I'm 17 and I am a person of color. Now obviously that is not the only attribute that I have, but that is a very important part of my life. Actually, that will always affect the way that I perceive life. So to begin, I want to ask a few questions, and because of our current situations, i.e. Corona, simply think to yourself your answers. The first one is easy. Who here has ever felt in any setting insecure? Well, almost all of us, right? Okay, now, who here has ever felt uncomfortable with their skin? Maybe acne or skin color? I definitely have. Next, who here has ever felt insecure sitting in front of a person in class or at the movies because they didn't want to block the person behind them with their big hair? Or who here has ever felt the need to use their hand or hair to cover their eye because they were scared of what people would say about the muscle that prevented the eye from looking to the left, making you feel cross-eyed? These are things that you may not have ever thought about. When I asked some of my peers, I never would have thought about them either. It's interesting to think about all the thoughts and insecurities that crowd our own head and that would never drift into someone else's. When I was younger, I was extremely experimental with my hair. I dyed it, I straightened it, I did the whole nine. My best friend and I would dye our hair together, although when she would look up blue hair dye for inspiration, I was looking up blue hair dye, black girl. Another thing I loved as a child were video games, specifically Minecraft. I loved that game so much. And in the game, you can change what your character looks like, and it's called changing your skin. And while the same friend would look up girl skins, I looked up black girl skins. If I were ever to just look up girl skins or hair dye, I would never find anything that looks like me or had the features that I had. It's strange because aren't I just a normal girl? It's the little things that people that aren't black may never really think of. So now, what is the purpose of this TED Talk? I haven't really explained that. I could give you a simple answer and say self-love, but it's more complex than that. First, I should tell you what it won't be at all. First, this TED Talk will not teach you how to accept yourself. Second, this TED Talk will not teach you how to be confident. And there are definite differences between these concepts and the ones that I will be speaking about in my talk. I will be teaching Sonia Renee Taylor's concept of radical self-love, and then speaking about that advice that I was taught and that I have as well. I began reading Taylor's book, The Body is Not an Apology, expecting your average book about how to love yourself and stuff like that. However, it actually taught me a lot, and it surprised me. So, self-acceptance. I have curly hair. There were periods of my life where I hated it, definitely, and I had to accept it, although it was definitely a long road learning to love it. I hated my body for years, and I've accepted it, but it will be a long, long journey to love it. Do you see the difference? Now, self-confidence. Picture this, the most popular and most athletic boy in school, the best soccer player on the team or whatever your favorite sport may be. Nonetheless, maybe you were him, maybe you envied him, maybe you wanted to date him. As you were always insecure about your social status or looks, he seemed completely confident. And sure, he may have been confident in his abilities or his ability to kick a ball into the goal, but did he love himself? Or did he love his decisions? The approach I want to teach is radical self-love. There are 4 pillars of practice that Taylor taught me. Taking out the toxic. Remove the toxic messages you put in your mind. I would be able to pay for my college tuition if I had $1 every time I seen a weight loss ad on my Instagram feed. And that's a lie, obviously, if you've ever learned anything about college, but definitely consider who you follow and what you focus on if you're on a self-love journey. Mind matters, too. Sure, after we limit the media, we still have our own minds trained to shame ourselves. We have to think deeply to the levels where we used to be carefree as a running child, running around naked or whatever children do. But remember, those times of unself-consciousness and freedom, and bring them back. If the media is hard for you to rid your daily life of, or maybe you need social media to market, Dr. Deborah Gill, a clinical psychologist in which I interviewed concerning self-love, had these ideas. 1, don't follow people that have qualities which are unrealistic ideals for yourself. If I am looking at all these girls that were white and setting a goal where I am Latina, I wouldn't be benefiting myself at all. In general, if you are using social media for the sake of comparisons, it might not be a good idea for you to be having social media while on this journey. Even concerning peers and those around you, if posts you see are bringing up feelings of inadequacy, you might want to rethink your use of social media. Next, unapologetic action. We have to be open to being unapologetic for the things that we do. I read this quote from Taylor's book, and I definitely reflected on it after I read. And I quote, "No one wants to hang out with a bad, wrong body. As we clear out those thoughts, we are better able to see our bodies for what they truly are. Amazing vessels, capable of awesome feelings, sensations, and experiences. By getting to know them, we are opening ourselves to deeper levels of pleasure, care, and ultimately radical love." And lastly, collective compassion. This is the being in the radical self-love theory. Here are 5 steps that I have learned and that I want to share with you. A direction on how we should treat ourselves, as seen in pillars I mentioned before. How we should act with others. Be okay with who you are without comparing yourself to the people around you. As you see others on your journey, instead of envy, you can think, hey, I can do that. Before shame stripped us of our inherent sense of self-worth, it stripped us of compassion. We saw failure in every mirror. We judged our every thought. Without compassion for others, we can only replicate the world we have always known. Now, why need to accept others? You will never be happy with yourself if you aren't okay with being the best, or not having this or not having that. But let me tell you now, there will always be a person out there with something that you don't have. I can say that with full confidence. And there's definitely someone out there who does have what you have, and I'm sure of that. Accepting that person, accepting that they have these feelings, and the hardest of them all, being happy or even just okay with their success. This is definitely an approach that got me personally. So, as I come to an end, I really hope I opened up a new conversation in your head about the people around you. The takeaways I hope to have are: more exposure to the insecurities people may have. Be aware of the journeys each unique individual is going through. Mindsets are never the exact same. The understanding that your journey requires the acceptance of others' journeys' accomplishments. I mean, if I were to continue to compare myself with some famous girl that I wish I looked like, and I completely envy the way that she lives her life, how could I ever be happy with my own life? And lastly, the understanding that radical self-love approach is the most efficient way to live a loving lifestyle. It is definitely hard. Definitely. You are diving deep into your past background and finding the origin of it all, and then building this new unfamiliar muscle. I try to love myself daily. I try really hard, and obviously, it's hard some days. I think we all go through these days, but going through this research process, these approaches have actually subconsciously worked their way into my life. Some being as little as a sentence-long affirmation that Taylor taught me. I hope that your subconscious mind is listening and aware and takes in at least some of what I'm saying too. In the beginning of my talk, I said that being a person of color is the only way that I will perceive life. Although, that definitely is not the only way that I wish to understand life. I wish to hear yours, and I hope you are now interested to hear others, just as you just heard mine. Thank you.